Okay, we are live on the War Council. We have some great guests here, and Angus
I think we just lost somebody. Yeah,
Angus, come on, man! As soon as we went live. All right, so we have Echo Base Network.
Whoop whoop.
I've been trying to have on the show for a few weeks, and I'm glad they came on today, and they saw the Rise of Skywalker. But we're not going to go into spoilers. We're still going to get the reactions, and then we have Preston of Pocket Chat Comics, who's probably going to talk about his comic and probably some other things.
It does happen.
Maybe issues with Comicsgate, but let's talk it out, hash it out in a real way that really examines the problems. Because I think we want independent comics to succeed, but there's definitely issues in Comicsgate. I think if you're going to be real, there's some issues. Okay, so what maybe talk about your comic and your channel and what you're trying to do on YouTube, Preston.
Well, my channel's Pocket Jacks Comics. It's YouTube/ and you just head over there. This is my latest issue. I've been fulfilling my Kickstarter last few days. I haven't put out a lot of videos. I've just been packing and shipping. It's called White Lily, which was the aviator call sign of the deadliest lady fighter pilot who ever lived. She flew for the Soviet Union during the Second World War. There she is on the cover, lighting a cigarette in the flames that are also, you can see the prop in the plane there in the background. So that's pretty much me and what I got going.
Cool. I haven't looked into your comic too much, but I've been getting a lot of people been saying the art's great too, just not really diving into it. But
yeah, it's very pretty. I wanted, in producer terms, I wanted to have a high production value. So the team that did the cover did all the interior pages, so it's like a high standard of art throughout the whole book.
Okay.
And I tell a complete story. It's based on a screenplay, and I tell it in 5 issues. So this is 1, 2, 3, and 4.
All right, and
he is back.
We have Angus back, and we also, I think, we believe at least 2 supporters of Stealing Solo on here. Nick, I think you got it.
Yes, I got a copy. I got my messed up copy, and then I will get my right copy once they ship again.
Okay, and Angus, did you get yours too?
I was in a backer with someone. I'm reviewing it. Someone informed me of panel to panel and stuff. So I'm giving my fair take since I've been informed. That's where I'm at. I know some people are like, oh, it's pirating or whatever. It's like, well, it fell in my lap. I'm going to review it. And it's a good review. It's a favorable review. Okay. I have some criticism, and I have some critique of this could be bigger. So it's not like I'm just giving Jeff a pass.
All right, cool.
And I also just got my second Salamandroid cover and 2 ash cans from EVS this last week also.
Okay, so you are supporters. I think we're gonna rip off the Band-Aid and just say there are definitely issues in Comicsgate, especially in the fandom too. There's different factions, war campaign. There is campaign. Pocket Jacks has been making some waves lately, along with the comic book cut. The comic book cut will not come on my show. I love his channel. I'm subscribed to him.
He's a little more reserved in that way.
Right. Yeah, he actually blocked us on Twitter.
and
I literally
he's
just
more reserved in that way.
I literally just asked him a normal. I wasn't being a dick or anything. I was just asking him a general question, a valid question, and he blocked us.
You are a dick.
Yeah.
well, from what I know from you, Nick, you seem pretty level-headed dude. So I don't understand. Yeah, I can't see why he would do that, but he does raise some. The criticism against him, I think he is trying to be for the consumer. He is trying to be for the consumer advocate.
He does. He does explicitly state that. Yes.
Yeah, and some of the well, there's things on both sides that I'm not too much of a fan of, to be honest.
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
Now, saying to contact Disney, that's a controversial step, Preston.
It did seem to be.
Although I don't agree with it personally,
sure.
I respect that you told people, because a lot of internet culture is doing it and they're not saying it anyway.
Right.
So you said right out, this is what I'm doing.
And I was a little concerned as I was putting the thing together. I'm like, if I just I did the legal analysis, and I'm like, oh, this is not protected by parody. And then I'm like, if I just say that, but I don't act on it, I worry I'm going to get, because, I have a somewhat antagonistic relationship with some personalities in Comicsgate, and I didn't want to get into charges of extortion kind of thing. And so I'm like, look, I'll just do it. And then no one can accuse me of extortion or blackmail or anything like that. It's done.
Okay. I personally don't agree with it going this far, but hey, you're at least said what you're going to do. You came out with it. You're not behind the scenes. You're telling people.
Yeah.
So I respect that, at least. Now, let me see where I was going with this. What are your main issues with Comicsgate, Preston?
I just report the journalism, but mostly, or at least that is what I attempt to do. But they seem to be, like Ethan kind of admits this, it's become a cult of personality around, him and certain other YouTubers. And the focus is not on quality comic books.
Okay. I can definitely see that.
Yeah,
it's more about the hype and the personality and the Comicsgate Live.
Yeah. And even in, one of Ethan's live streams where he was saying, some not so nice things about me a couple of weeks ago, it was, kind of, why would you fire into your own dugouts? Because we're all on the same side. And I'm like, well, not really. I mean, really, if we're just all about making comic books and we're all more or less kind of competing for the consumer dollars.
Yeah.
But this idea that it's us versus the SJWs and we have to go out and sell a bunch of comic books so that America doesn't succumb to Marxism by way of Marvel. I'm like, that seems a little wonky.
It's extreme.
Yeah.
It is extreme. My personal take, and I'm going to ask the other supporters on the panel of Comicsgate here. It's not just going to be mine, Preston's opinions, is that it has moved away from Comicsgate's origins were a consumer movement.
Right.
And now it's more a personality, cliquish, cult-like. You can't criticize in your own group. And that's what we had an issue with Marvel and DC to begin with, is supporting people regardless of the talent level. I think we've lost the focus on the consumer.
Yeah.
And the consumer comes kind of last.
Right.
At this point. But they're the first to front the money to fund all this stuff.
Yeah. And when it comes to my advice to people, because a lot of these books end up shipping late and there's customer service issues. And it's very rare that you find a project where you can't just wait. And then if it does ship, just buy it on eBay and you typically get a cheaper price and much faster delivery. But then you don't get the I'm supporting my creator to do whatever.
All right. I'd like to hear the other people on the panel, Angus and Nick, Coach. What do you think of how Comicsgate was the origins of it and where we're at now? Do you think it's going well? Or do you think there's some area for criticism? Are they taking criticism well?
Well, okay. So the origins, it's like a bunch of little things that I'm not even aware of, that haven't been like made either public or largely public. One thing I remember though is Frank Chow. He's a notoriously great male gazy kind of artist, and he got Wonder Woman.
We sure did.
And then the writer's like, "You're drawing her too sexy," and she's just like, "That's literally my shtick in comics is overly like drawing them overly sexy. That's my style. And why the hell would you hire me for Wonder Woman if you didn't want that? Right. So is that where it's like, comics are, idealized imagery largely. Yeah, you got graphic novels and stuff. You got like frumpy SJW comics, like generalizing, where they want to draw like myself into the comic, all that stuff. And I'm actually fine with that. But there's this whole kind of dictation of like, oh, you need to quit drawing idealized. You need to draw like the real world. And it's like, that's not why you're doing comics, so it's missing the mark. there's shit like with your boy Zach, where it's like people fucking dox him and his family and dig into him to try to like coerce him, extort him to like not make his comic because he's a Nazi. Mark Waid threatening. There's all these like little things building up, and I get the kind of view Preston has about like, oh, you're making a mountain out of a molehill with the SJWs. It's not going to turn into Marxist America because of comic books.
Right.
I get what you mean, but it's like they're shifting from comics to the films. All right. That's the thing. You see it with Captain Marvel. They explicitly like, this is a feminist film. It's like, this is a fucking cartoon made from the 60s by an old Jew in New York, like, the propaganda or whatever is just like, making a myth for kids to like, want to be, whether it's spiritually or physically or both. But I do think it is a cog in the machine. I think comics still have a place, especially with art and stuff. It's all here to like meddle with.
There you go.
All right, Coach.
There you go.
Hello, Greedo has joined this chat.
And I just wanted to add, it's not just cultish; it's cultish.
Mm-hmm. What does that mean? Oh, what do you mean?
I actually took the earbuds out. I'm just reading chat. Sorry. I got you, Curtis.
I'll turn over to Nick or Coach now.
Okay.
Since Coach knows nothing about Comicsgate, I'll chime in. My only thing about Comicsgate is the infighting kind of throws me out a little bit. I like EVS. I like Jeff. I supported their books. I also like Mike S. Miller. I like Edwin. I like people from War Campaign. They're really entertaining, their streams. But all the back and forth, like at one point in time when they were all kind of together and on the same side, that's when I absolutely loved it. Okay. And now it seems like it's kind of broken off into different factions, and everybody's fighting with each other, Sure. And that kind of takes me out of it a little bit, and it's hard for me to keep up with all the drama between everybody. So
that's what my channel is all about. Every week I just do a weekly digest of here's what's happening in life.
Yeah. I kept up with the stuff going back and forth between EVS and Edwin and Mike and stuff for a little while, and the people at War Campaign, and then finally I was just like, man, I can't keep watching videos on this, so. But I mean, I definitely support independent comic creators. Yeah. It's for somebody to kind of step out of the career field of doing that with Marvel, DC, whoever, and to solely focus on doing this as a career to like support yourself and your family. I mean, that's a big gamble, for a lot of people. And, I definitely support people that are trying to, do that and kind of make it on their own,
I love your perspective there. You just are there to support people. You don't like the infighting and everything. It's exhausting.
Yeah. It has been, definitely.
I think it's getting to the point where we have to decide what we really love. Do we really want these independent comics to succeed? Because, if your movement doesn't get in check, and there's people putting in check right now, like Preston, Comic Book Hut, what do you really want for these creators in the future? If we keep having all these groups and fighting, and you want opportunities in the future with like Netflix deal or TV shows, this kind of stuff they're not going to want to deal with it. It's just gonna stay in the bubble. It's not gonna get bigger.
Right. Or even some talk about comic books, like the next logical step would be something like Diamond Distribution, where instead of going through Indiegogo, like you actually get these in comic book stores. Or I know Allegiance Arts has a deal with Walmart where that's supposed to happen in like March. But that's just the Allegiance Arts crew, and I know Mitch was talking with Ethan like a year ago that this was going to kind of be like the Comicsgate publishing house, but that doesn't seem to have happened.
Okay, here's someone that's backing you up, Preston. 2nd Street Marvel, just based on your quality of delivery. He says you have it together. He's not, and he's not worried about people's personal issues. He's just there for the comics.
He's a good man. His comics went out, so.
Oh, cool. I will have to check out your stuff. I haven't followed it too much. I think we have to talk about War Campaign.
Go ahead.
Angus. They're an interesting crew. They are funny, but I don't blame Doug for leaving. I really don't. Because if you're a religious guy, I mean, it's funny stuff, but it also gets to it's not good for his brand whatsoever. I mean, Cyberfrog is very different than Earthworm Jim or Bigfoot Bill. There's children, there's younger viewers, and I think you have to consider that. I mean, did he take the money and run? That's a lot of comic skaters and War Campaign. I think that's the main issue. They think he came in for the money,
right?
And that's a perspective.
That's the charge, yeah.
That he came in for the money and he left. He just wanted the money. I personally don't see that. I see he wanted to be. I think he wanted to join, but all this other stuff he does not want to associate with his brand. He's also working on ColecoVision Amico, and he cannot be associated with some of this craziness. I mean, it's people's right to do it, but it's also one of my arguments is rights versus respect. If you only exercise your right to be an asshole every time, what are you a fan of? You're a fan of being an asshole or comics?
Preston or Nick can go on this, but I just wanted to clarify about that one point from my perspective about the whole extreme or whatever. And EVS tried to get a clear answer about this in his neutral area interview with Ricada, and I think it's valid. It's like, oh, you can't be associated with an extremist group, a radical group. Comicsgate is falls under that, and War Campaign as a subgroup, definitely. But it's weird because Doug got kicked out of the main industry, or feared and left the industry, whichever way, because he's an outspoken fundamentalist Christian. He's anti-trans, and I don't mean that as kill the trans or something, but it doesn't fall in line with his religion. I don't find that bigoted. It's all about person to person how you go about it. So I'm not calling anti-trans Christians bigots, and also anti-gay agenda, marriage and all that. And I understand that's probably, but the way he goes about it, it's kind of hateful, it seems, and that's pretty extreme and definitely not warranted or allowed by the mainstream. So it seems disingenuous that he says oh, I can't be associated with this, radical view of Comicsgate. Really, Comicsgate is just a competition. It's indie people saying we don't need the middlemen that take dollars out. So it's weird to me, his stance. But yeah, I'll let Preston and Nick go.
Well, I would say I don't know. Are you guys familiar with the origin of the term brand? I'll go ahead and fill you guys in. It actually stems from cattle brands way back when.
Me don't like those.
Yeah. And, so you would go to the store and, you'd get your cow and you'd go home and you'd slaughter it and you'd eat the thing. And, it would have a brand from what ranch it was from, and then people either rightly or wrongly over time would go you know what, that cow was just much better in terms of quality and taste than this other cow. So they'd go back and go, I want that Lazy X brand cow. That's the cow I want instead of these other cows. And so that was the origin of the term brand. And it's really just all the kind of qualities that go into people's perceptions. And when it comes to Comicsgate, I think it certainly had kind of a more wholesome image a year ago, where it was all we want to do is focus on quality comic books that are free of politics and the SJW agenda. Well, that sounds pretty cool. And that sounds like something, Doug could certainly associate with. But then as it increasingly becomes about the drama of the weeks and the dildo memes and, look, Pan got brought up on charges for cyber stalking. And people want to make light of that, but that means a district attorney looked at the evidence and said, we're bringing charges. Okay. That's kind of serious. And it's not like anyone in, Comicsgate is we maybe need to distance ourselves from this guy. And no, he's still very much embraced. And Ethan actively defends him. And so that's their right to do it. But that's part of the brand of these guys are, they're right there teetering on how much can we get away with in terms of, kind of getting in people's face, trying to humiliate them, and quite frankly, trying to intimidate or employ some element of coercion.
All right.
In my opinion. And that's certainly, maybe I say, a controversial interpretation, maybe, but I don't think I would be hard pressed to say that you can at least see how someone might come to that conclusion and say, I don't want Earthworm Jim associated with that. So.
Okay. Something else that I see, I like Ethan. I like his personality. He's funny. He's charismatic.
Right.
But his support of these smaller groups, when they show no lack of respect. I mean, Doug Tenaple, I've known him for a long time. I mean, known of him. I mean, when I was playing Earthworm Jim as a kid, I think there was a big lack of respect there, and constantly, even maybe he did something that made people upset. Okay. But the constant memes is a lack of respect for another top creator in there. I don't blame him for leaving at all.
And the charge that he took the money and ran, that implies a robbery. He sold a book for $35 after shipping, which everyone seems delighted with. I mean, are we saying that means that the people who were in Comicsgate looked at the book that he was offering for $35 after shipping and said, I'm not going to buy this because it's Earthworm Jim. I'm going to buy it just because it's Comicsgate. And then after he wasn't okay with some of the more controversial things they were doing, now they demanded a refund because they didn't want the book anymore. Like, that really shows you how kind of sectarian this little group has become.
Now, this isn't just going to be bashing on Comicsgate, because I figure something else we could do is something positive.
Sure.
I have started the Fandom Awards, and we're going to have a show early January. What? Why are you laughing, Angus?
No, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, but this is something small we could do to just take us out of different sections, Comicsgate, anti-Comicsgate, and celebrate independent creators. So I am going to have a poll, and it's not going to be just Comicsgate creators, different polls. Today, I got to figure them out, and have the fandom vote on the quality of the comic, say which is the best, and we'll give it a little announcement to the winner early January. So I'm sorry, Nick and Coach, we went deep into it. We're not talking about Star Wars much yet, but I thought this was important. I think it's pretty level-headed conversation so far. I don't think we all want independent comics to succeed. I think you have to take criticism too. A low point for me was when EVS, and I guess he was just, I mean, when you're spend this much time on the internet, you're going to get heated, and maybe you're going to say something you might want to take back later. But he said a scab, a puppy kicker to comic book hut for criticism of very valid criticism, and I think that's a bad look, because a lot of Comicsgate is the first to criticize Marvel and DC. We have to be able to take it, or they have to be able to take it themselves. And that's where I think things got to the extreme, where maybe you, Preston, and Comic Book Hut said, well, let's contact Harrison Ford and Disney. Or when Jeff said he could sue, that was pretty lame too. Like, there's some valid reasons consumers are upset right now.
Right.
Should just kind of be quiet a little bit and not bring suing up, because honestly, your perks say exceeding industry standards when you don't even know what they are. To me, I mean, I'm rooting for him, but it was presented in a way that says he's going to exceed industry standards, and he's going to sign each book. And I don't see the attempt there to do either of those, and that's his perk. So he deserves the criticism. I'm sorry.
I just want to say I think there is some valid criticism out there, especially with stuff being late. I know that is for a lot of the Comicsgate fans out there. I know a lot of them had issues with stuff being late, and not just like late, like a month or two, like being late, you know. And I saw comments where people were like, you know, EVS is doing these streams, buying these houses, you know, doing all this and that. And where's our comic book at? So I get that from their perspective. I definitely think there's some valid criticisms there, but in defense of EVS, Jeff, some of these other people in Comicsgate, where this was their first project from start to finish, maybe they didn't understand completely how much time it was really going to take. And I'm not them, so I can't really speak for them. But I mean, maybe that's part of it. They didn't really have an understanding of how much time it would actually take, to get this, from the start of it to showing up in people's mailboxes. Now that their first projects are out of the way, their next projects moving forward, I think if they're late, I think that's unacceptable at that point in time. 100%. They've gotten through one project and they kind of know how it works at this point in time, and moving forward, I say, just my opinion, I would say get it pretty much ready to go to print before starting the campaign for it, saying, hey, I got this ready to go, showing stuff off. This is it. It's ready to go to print, so people really have an understanding and idea like, all right, if I purchase this now, this is when I'm actually going to get it, and I think a lot of people, I think that would appeal to a lot of the Comicsgate customers out there.
Appeal to a lot of customers, period.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. For me, I mean, I'm not really too familiar with everything that's going on here because I don't have my ear too close to the ground when it comes to all the Comicsgate stuff. But to me, I think the most important thing for any of these creators to do is to be as transparent as possible when it comes to their projects and everything that they're doing. Even when there's mishaps out there, I think it's important that the creators, let everybody kind of know. And like I said, I'm not too familiar what happened with the stealing solo thing, but I'm sure there's people out there that are a little more, how would you say, familiar with that and more in touch with that. But I think, I seen that Jeff had released a video kind of addressing that, and I think that's a good thing. Now we need some follow up on that. And I didn't support the book, but I think the supporters who supported him need a little more follow up on that, as opposed to just. Here's what we're doing. And, I guess maybe a little more transparency for things like that. And that's, one of the things, like I said, I've supported Preston Poulter up there, at Pocket Jacks Comics with his stuff.
Did you get the book?
Yeah. I've got my books and everything. Well, I didn't get White Lily 4 yet, but I got that when I seen him at LA Comic Con.
It's coming.
But yeah, I was gonna say he messaged me, said it was on its way anyway, and I got my digital copies and things like that. And that's
got digital too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and that's one of the reasons that I went ahead and backed his project clear back on, I think it was White Lily issue 3. After I had seen him on Young Rip of 5'9's channel, I was like, oh hey, I kind of looked into it. I kind of hung around for a while. I was like, I don't know, and then I finally went ahead and pulled the trigger because I'm like, it seems like he's got his stuff together. And for me, as as a reader, somebody who wants to support these things, I appreciate the transparency and just the kind of constant updates with that. And to me, it's also more than just that transparency and the updates. It's also the follow through with that. And like you guys are saying with spending time, buying houses and all these different kinds of things. I think that's something that also these creators, because they got lives as well, but they should also be cognizant of that, what their supporters are seeing when they're still not getting their product.
Yeah, I definitely think they care about their fans, but they also have to EVS kind of underplays some people. Some people, this is a big portion of their entertainment is supporting these comics, and they wait a long time and they spend a lot of money on these projects, a lot of money on super chats too. So I think going forward, you have to put the fans first. I'm not saying they were out of the equation. I'm not saying that at all. I wouldn't go as bold as saying they were stealing money or anything like that. But I don't. Right. I think they lost, maybe with the hype of everything, with the big boom at the beginning of Comicsgate, they lost track. And EVS likes pie. There's a lot of super chat pies on YouTube, so I can see how he lost his mind with all that pie in his. I also want to say, someone in the chat, Chuck Graham. You're back, baby. I missed you, Chuck. I don't know what you're frustrated on, though. So please comment below. I love Chuck. He's critical of me, too, just like Angus. I miss you so much, brother. I'm trying to do fair and balanced. So I hope you're still in the chat.
Yeah,
I think
I'm not sure what he's frustrated. I'm not sure what he's frustrated by. I don't think there's anybody here saying necessarily anything bad about any of these creators. I think it's just everybody wants a little more clarity and exactly what's going on.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I personally had the privilege of hanging out and meeting EVS and Jeff, along with several other people in the Fandom Menace up in Chicago at Star Wars Celebration, and they were super nice. Invited me to go out eat pizza with them afterwards and hang out and kind of shoot the shit or whatnot. And I mean, I definitely have never gotten the feeling from my interactions with them that they've ever intentionally had the plan to cheat people or get their money and not really care about once they got the money, not really care about giving them what the people paid for. I personally have never gotten that feeling from my interactions with them, but I'm in total agreement with the clarity thing on them being more clear, sort of like when Jeff released the video on the Steele and Solo situation. So
well, to me, I'm like my man Preston over here in Comic Book Cut. I want to put fans and consumers first. I think we need more voices like that, and I think it's very dangerous to say scabs and puppy kickers when you get a little criticism. That's tame. It's tame compared to what the Fandom Menace did to Disney, Brie Larson. It's very tame, and they can't take it. So I think
especially when they go so hard at people all the time too.
Right. Yeah. So I actually think. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Nick.
Oh, I was just going to ask you a question, Max. Did you feel like EVS was kind of taking your criticism to heart when you were on the stream with him and Jeremy and Cecil?
I like that conversation.
I did too.
I'm not sure. I think he did a little bit. I don't know if it's true or not. I still heard that some of the backers from the first campaign did not get one of the Cyber Frogs. I'm not sure if that's accurate, though. I've heard mixed. I've also listened to the Comic Book Cut, so I don't know if that's true. I like Comic Book Cut, the people's champion. I like Preston here. I'd like to have Preston back. I think he's pretty level-headed. I honestly do not like how far he went recently, but also tempers were heated and talking about suing. I kind of think, even though I don't agree with the way they went, Jeff kind of, I'm not saying deserved it, but he the way he said, I could sue you and all this other stuff, that was lame. And I think
that was a bit silly.
If I could interject a bit on this, like Cecil, if I could interject here, the thing with the suing, all right, I do think it was poor judgment to say anything, whether or not there is legal standing for it for Jeff, which I have no idea. But I think for everyone that's like jumping on the like, oh, he says he's going to sue, fuck Jeff Hicks, the anti-CG, anti-Menace people, those seem to be the same people that are like, woo, let's take fucking Panda court because he memed Mertz. This is the guy who got kicked off Twitter for, what Twitter deemed a gun threat to someone. And from what I understand, he's got a bad history as a councilman in his town starting trouble. Mm-hmm. So, it's like, let's take everything into account. Now, there's a bunch of stuff that was said. So I keep looking to my right because I got a notebook. I take notes when I stream. So I'll try to go through these bullet points quickly. So going way back to Preston, the thing with Doug and the stealing CG money. Doug came into Comicsgate believing in this ideal. All right. Now, individuals may not fit the ideal as creators or something later on, or show that they're, not actually there, which I think Doug showed himself. It seems disingenuous, and people want to not back someone when they have this perception that, hey, you're on our side in this camp with this ideal, which regardless, along with people left or right, it doesn't matter. Like the ideal should still be part of you. It's like, do you believe in like this SJW problem in comics. Okay, check. Do you think we need no politics in comics, etc.? Do you think we need to not propagandize comics? If those are like all key elements of Comicsgate, so it's like you can hate everyone else in Comicsgate, but like the ideal, it seems Doug should be a part of. So I think that's why people feel betrayed and why some refunded, which it doesn't seem like it's actually a big thing. He made a lot of money. So I think he's fine. I rooted for Doug. I still have my reviews up for Doug's book. Like, he made a quality product with Bigfoot Bill that superseded anything I expected. I'll tip my hat to him all the time for that. And I don't think people have a problem with him charging the money necessarily. Like that is the customer deal. But it's like, dude, look at what the fuck you're charging. And it's just kind of like a wow factor, I think, for people in CG. But I don't think that's really a dig at Doug.
All right.
I wish to address the Pan situation.
All right.
He was not charged for memes. A district attorney reviewed evidence, which included a threat of, what are you going to do when I show up on your doorstep after Pan doxed someone? And the district attorney said, we're bringing this guy up on charges.
No, I get that, but I think
trying to say that as is in any way related to Jeff is just silly.
No, I'm saying I was giving a comparison of like the fan fervor left and right, anti-CG, CG.
Sure.
I do think, regardless if Jeff has a case, that it was not smart to say that live. I think that was just emotions. I think EVS was getting a bit emotional with Hut and his, the puppy dog comments and stuff, because that's his boy, that he propped up, and he is invested as a friend, I think. So emotions do take hold, and I agree with Trinity about when you hit so hard at people like the Disney people and stuff, you should expect to get hit back. The difference is, and I think maybe this ties into the slander idea of suing, would be like, what defense mechanisms does Disney personnel have versus a guy that's solo by himself? It's kind of like that Twitter beef with the guy who criticized Brie Larson just about directing, and then she's like, Netflix, and fucking he had to lock his account because 50,000 people harassed him on Twitter. So I think there is a difference. I try to take both sides into account, because I do think it's valid to say, these people make money on YouTube by being aggressively critical repetitively of personnel at Disney and other companies. I think, it covered my bullet points.
All right, let's talk about some Star Wars.
All right.
I promised Coach, and then he went blank. I'm sorry.
Really quick. He just texted me. He went to the bathroom real quick.
Oh, okay. All right,
from what I understand about Mertz versus Pan, Pan could have also sued or charged for doxing, because it seems unclear which one actually doxed first, or if they both doxed or whatever. So it seems that Pan, I understand, and I am biased. Right. I'm on the War Campaign side, so I'm noting that. But from what I understand, it was kind of like they both drew at the same time. But Pan's like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. That's like a line I don't cross, actually doing it or whatever, versus Mertz is like, yeah, screw you. So that's where I'm at.
I think one of the things when it comes to everybody talking about all this whole doxing and all this crap is, you know what? If you're not an asshole to somebody, you shouldn't have anything to worry about.
Right.
That's a fair point.
All right. So if we're going on to Star Wars, I guess I'm gonna probably zap out.
We'd like to have you back, Preston.
Oh, thanks. Sure, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I think you added to the conversation.
Oh, thank you.
I think it's good to get all sides.
Yeah, of course.
In a not like a attacking conversation, but
no, I think like if we're having more and better conversations, I think we could move beyond it and kind of get back to, well, when's this comic book coming out?
I do think we need people like you in the comic book cut. I don't agree with everything that's happened recently, but I value criticism. That's the way to grow. If you can't take the criticism, it's not going to. Your bubble is just going to stay that bubble. It's not going to get bigger. What do we actually want from comics?
Right.
Comicsgate and these independent comic creators.
Well, yeah, and I mean, if we look at, all right, look, I don't want to. You guys are about to talk about Star Wars, so I'm going to leave you to talking about Star Wars.
Well, we got a minute because Coach is reading.
Yeah.
computer.
Okay.
And I was gonna say, like I said earlier, I mean, I've backed Preston and his comic book up mainly because it seems like he had his stuff together. The product is good. He's delivering, and I mean, I think ultimately, me as a reader, that's what I want is somebody. I'm not like. I understand like independent when it comes to like these independent creators, not everything has to be 100% polished and stuff like that. I mean, I think we understand that from a small creators. I mean, they don't have all of maybe the resources that a Marvel Comics or a DC Comics has, or even an Image Comics. So I think us as supporters of these campaigns are always willing to give a little, as long as we end up getting our finished product and it's enjoyable.
Cool. Great. Final thoughts there. Preston, if you want to tell people about your channel before you go, because we're going to talk about Star Wars.
PocketJacksComics.com. I do a weekly digest on all the latest Comicsgate drama. That seems to be a big show people like. And I've just edited together. I think I've had this idea that I want to start doing like weekly church sermons, except I want to take it out of any kind of theological realm and just look at, because I was brought up Baptist, and the idea of coming in and looking at a virtue, or in terms of human action, and the structure of the sermon would tend to be, okay, today we're going to talk about faith, or we're going to talk about anger, and then how it would apply to your life. Then we go to a Bible story. I'm like, what if instead of a Bible story, it was like a Marvel movie?
Okay.
So the first video I just recorded today was on like the need for virtue instead of like blind allegiance to rules, and I'm talking about like Aristotle. Because Aristotle wasn't about rules. He was about like virtue, and the virtuous man would know what to do in the given moment. And I'm looking at the original Thor movie, where we have Thor who's acting very brashly, and Odin is like, what, this is not a virtuous man, and banishes him. So
okay.
Yeah, so
that's interesting.
So that's what I'm about to upload. If anybody wants to check that out.
All right, and keep in touch.
Thank you.
You're welcome anytime.
Regardless of our differences, I value your review quality of comics and stuff, and I like what you do at CineState. That's what perplexes me about you, because I think Comicsgate is very comparable to what CineState is.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just not as organized.
Right.
I don't think people want to actually organize to a company, but
right.
That's why I'm just like I mean, honestly, you're interesting for sure.
Well, thank you.
And I like how you hand yourself with Wenger. I do wish you would sit down with EVS on a mediated stream.
Don't want to do that, but you mentioned being perplexed, and like more or less like Doug. It's like we have our principles, and we kind of reject social justice, but we see Comicsgate as using a lot of the same tactics. Which is, I don't want to launch back at it. I just wanted to leave. Okay. Like that is kind of how we see it, and that's why we're not if we're on any side, it's on the side of principle of like we don't want to see these things happen.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
I can agree with that.
All right. Take care, everyone.
All right. Thanks for coming on.
Have fun talking about Star Wars. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Echo Base Inc. Oh. Pocket Jacks too, and thank you so much for sticking with. I know Coach was struggling a little bit there. we're ready to talk about some Star Wars.
Coach's like fucking comic nerds.
I know.
Coach, your mic's muted.
My bad. Oh my gosh.
And real quick, before we get started, Angus, what about them Eagles today?
Oh my God! Fucking fly, Eagles, fly, baby! I remember.
I hate the Cowboys.
Yeah, that's what I love to hear, man. Like, it's great, because every week when we're not playing Dallas, it's like, well, that team's my favorite team aside from Philly, and we got to beat them today, and it was great. I was a little disappointed in that rookie. Even though it's a smart move, it's a very Westbrook move, team player. I would have ran for that touchdown, just pad those stats going forward, because you're not going to get a touchdown that easy in the future. But enough nerd stuff, enough sports nerd stuff. Let's get to Star Wars.
I kicked you for a second. I listened to Drunk. Hey, Drunk, you like to talk a lot in the chat, but you're not on my show yet, and I invited you. So what's up with that, Drunk?
Let's go Drunk.
You're too pretty to be on this show. You're too pretty.
Bite with all that bark.
Yeah. Put some bite in all that bark. All right. So who here has seen the Rise of Skywalker?
Just got out of my second viewing.
You saw it twice? Everyone.
Ooh, don't unsubscribe. Don't unsubscribe.
Wait a second. Wait a second here. I was watching Echo Based Network, and they told me don't even bother see it, and then you saw it twice.
All right. So,
Coach can explain this. I only saw.
I had to take the family.
yeah, it's the same thing that Trinity's saying. So we went and watched it on opening night at 6:00 at the world premiere. And then on Saturday, yesterday, we actually have a personal friend of mine whose children are fans of our show. They asked me if I would come with them. And his kids wanted to sit with me and watch the movie. And I took my oldest daughter, Olivia. She's 11 years old. So I went and watched it a second time. And I've got a lot of thoughts about that. So, but yes, I have seen it twice.
All right. So it improved on the second viewing is what you're saying, right?
Am I saying that it improved on the second viewing?
Yeah.
Only because I totally and completely wiped my mind as I sat and watched it.
Okay.
I did not I didn't refer back to the original trilogy. I didn't refer back to anything canon from back in the day. I didn't refer back to the prequels. I watched it mindlessly as normies do, and it was a good movie then and only then.
I could get that perspective, yeah. If you don't have any expectations except just the movie to be entertained, that's a way you could enjoy it. I can't do that. Yeah. I took my wife today. I still did not see it, and I'm still not going to see it. Angus offered to send me a link, and I'm still not. I decided I'm not.
I got two different links to watch it.
I decided no, I'm not doing it, and I will watch it eventually. But the other thing is there's going to be a period of time where there's not going to be Star Wars. So there's not any need for me to rush out and go see it. I already know spoilers. I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah, RK Outpost sent Coach and me a link, and I don't know, Angus might have a better link. The one we got has all kinds of gambling ads all over it.
I don't know. So I got a link from Lethal Lightning. It's got like
it might be the same one.
Oriental Asian dialogue subtitles. But I haven't.
This one has Spanish.
What the hell are you doing, Trinity? I don't know what is
all this talking of links. I'll give you my link, big guy.
Also, breaking news. We got firsthand reports of no one showing up in the theater. I saw you on Twitter, 2nd Street. No one was there. You were not even there. I don't know how you got the footage.
Yeah.
Wasn't
there.
At first, because I am Fandom Menace, and so I see this guy hanging out drunk, and then I see him like, Galaxy's Edge. I don't know what everyone's problem is. I'm just like, what is this guy? Is he like a grifter? Like, what the fuck's the deal here? And then later on, you kind of realize, he's his own guy. He's just friends with Fandom Menacers. He's friends with comic skaters. But he's his own thing, And I appreciate that because, I felt like one of the only people that ever vocalizes criticism from within.
So
I appreciate that.
So out of the 4 that's watched it on the panel, I think we have 2 that are more favorable towards it and 2 that had issues with Echo Based Network. You did not really like it. The only way you liked it is if you turned your brain off and normie, not a Star Wars fan, just like going for a movie, an action movie. Is that right?
Yeah. Do you want us to explain that?
Actually, at this point, we could go on the spoilers too, because I don't care. So if anyone in the chat does not want to be here for spoilers, you may want to end now so we can be more free with our conversation. So spoiler warning.
And I would say there's not really much to spoil in this movie.
All right. So I'll say this, Max.
Okay.
I like girls.
Okay.
So it's not the character. It's not Rey being female.
Okay.
It's Rey being portrayed as the most powerful person ever in the galaxy, more powerful than Anakin, Yoda, Luke, and all of them combined. She is Super Saiyan 10, and you see. Here's my main issue. Nick, I don't think I've told you this, even my Echo Based Network partner, but I know you feel the exact same way. And I just haven't articulated up until this point. My feeling is J.J. Abrams and Disney thought they had to make Star Wars bigger and better. And you didn't. All you had to do was continue the story.
I can agree with
George
that.
Lucas didn't go back to the prequels and make the Jedis bigger and better. They weren't.
He just detailed them.
That's right.
Right.
That's all you had to do. But in J.J. Abrams and Disney's world, we got to make them bigger and better. They got to be able to destroy an entire fleet, stop ships midair, fight via the Force, and that is all bogus to me.
All the Star Destroyers
that.
be Death Stars and have Death Star tech. It's like, can we get away from the Death Star tech? Does everything have to be on such a grand, huge scale? To be good? No.
Yeah, where do you go from here?
Well, one of my favorite movies in the Marvel Universe was Captain America Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
And there was no sort of like, the world's going to end. Yeah, there was a chance a lot of people are going to end up getting killed if those carriers, ended up getting up and getting linked and all that. But, it wasn't like this, the whole universe is gonna end if we don't stop this threat, and so that's I 100% agree with Coach on that.
I know you do do, because I'll end our channel.
Both of you guys there.
Yeah.
I have a sort of controversial take right now. After all the spoilers and everything, I'm kind of softening on Ryan and his view, because listen, if he didn't do what he did in this, we got the Rise of Skywalker is basically what JJ was going to do anyway. And Snoke was, instead of Palpatine, it would just be Snoke. And it would just be basically a repeat of the original trilogy. Maybe he knew that. And he's like, this is bullshit. We got to do something different, and killed off Snoke. So they'd have to do something. But then they just went back and replaced it with Palpatine. If Ryan didn't do what he did, would it just be Snoke in Palpatine's role?
I thought you meant Ryan Kinnell.
No. Screw Ryan Kinnell. Screw Ryan Kinnell, that Yoda baby killer. No, I don't talk about him here. He is one step lower than Ryan Johnson. That's right. I would take Ryan Johnson over Kinnell anytime. No, I'm joking. I can't play. This is a joke. I lost some viewers with that. No, Angus is warning me. Okay, I was joking. But I still don't like the things he did with Luke. I'm saying, but with the big bad, because you have to have someone in the last movie, and if he didn't do that, okay.
Do you know what that is, Max?
What?
Anybody besides Nick want to guess at this?
Is that your mile runtime?
What was the? Yeah, right. What was? What was the name? What was the name of this movie? Episode 9. What was the name of it? This is a rhetorical question. Rise of Skywalker, right?
Rise of Skywalker, yeah.
So this trilogy continued the Skywalker saga, right? That is exactly precisely how much Luke Skywalker we got in Episode 9.
Okay. Wow.
I thought there was too much Luke Skywalker in this movie, honestly.
Angus, I love you, bro, but you just went down a notch. Be gone!
Canceled.
Canceling it. Oh, we got another more.
That's a new horsepower. That's a new horsepower, Max.
I love doing that. What do you think of that, though? Do you think it would have just been Snoke, or do you think he would have done something different? And maybe that's why Ryan's like, you know what, scrap this, because they basically went back to the original plan. I think.
I don't think there was an original plan, bro.
Yeah.
They had an original plan for Episode 7, and that was all.
He did have an outline, though, not like all the way written through. JJ did have an outline.
Well,
yeah, but Rey's backstory wasn't a part of that. Palpatine wasn't a part of that. The First Order in this Episode 9 was absolutely irrelevant until the final 20 minutes of the film.
Yeah, he had to bring Palpatine in because of what Ryan did with Snoke. I'm saying maybe the original plan was to have Snoke as the big bad in the last one, and just a redemption of Kylo. And this is where I'm trying to be devil's advocate for why am I doing this? For Rian Johnson. And he also handled the things where he's being tempted by the light with shooting Leia in Last Jedi. And then in the throne room sequence where he has a chance to go light and he doesn't. They already did that, and they basically just did it again in The Rise of Skywalker. So I'm saying, what if the outline, the very limited outline was there, and it was just going to be Snoke, it's just going to be a cookie cutter. It's almost cookie cutter now. I mean, it's just an idea for argument. I'm not 100% committed to it.
Yeah, you guys just did a lot of exposition on Comic Book Gate and Comicsgate and all that. It would be like, to me, if a producer of comics came in and said, okay, Max, you're going to take pages 1 through 5, and Trinity, you got 6 through 10, and Angus, you got 11 through 15. That's exactly the Star Wars that we just got, guys.
Yeah,
pretty much.
I agree with that. I agree with that. You know, yeah, totally. And that's on the producers. I mean, they should have at least had a plan for what they want to do, not just throw everything into the blender all willy-nilly and be like, here you go, and then run with it. I mean, that is ultimately the bad thing, and that shows in this movie, and that's the biggest downfall of this movie, is because it tries to do too much with what it has. It's essentially 2 movies in one, while still brushing off the movie that came right before it, instead of building on that movie, at least, unlike The Last Jedi didn't build on The Force Awakens. And I think that's largely my biggest criticism of The Last Jedi, is that it doesn't build on what The Force Awakens did. The Force Awakens set up the story and introduced our characters. I think in that first story, there were good and likable characters. Mm-hmm. They just didn't continue that once you got to The Last Jedi. It just flatlined as far as plot being built and building those characters up.
I agree with Trinity completely.
Yeah, that second movie should have been 100% character development. You know,
I was loving The Force Awakens after I watched it, and The Last Jedi made The Force Awakens a bad movie. Very similar to the reverse effect, the Clone Wars animated series made the prequels much better for me. I didn't really like the prequels until I watched the Clone Wars animated series. And then I was able to go back and watch Anakin and all of it, and I had a new appreciation for it. The Last Jedi made The Force Awakens a much worse movie.
Yeah, it did for me also.
Yeah, where I'm at with this,
I have Jesus, Phoebic, I promise you.
where I'm at with this movie is like, I see JJ completely aware. You know, I reported on that Fandom Menace comment, and I still do think he's kind of just like swatting a fly. Like, oh, what do you call them? The Fandom Menace? Yeah, those weirdos. Grace Randolph just said Fandom Menace today in her video about the
really?
She's like, yeah, she's like, even the Fandom Menace, you know. So it's like she's seeing the comments now, people. But anyway, I
tell her about me, please.
Well, she likes Twinkies. But anyway, despite JJ like swatting at us like a fly, kind of disingenuously, like, oh yeah, the Fandom Menace, whatever. He's aware of, like, I think a big sentiment, even for normal moviegoers that watch 7 to 8 and then 8 to whatever the hell's coming in 9. Like, there's nothing to look forward to after 8, because you're like, you know. So JJ threading the needle, maintaining the I would say the thing he did maintain was the Reylo stuff, which was good chemistry. Yeah. Whether you like Reylo or not, there's good chemistry between Driver and Ridley, and it's believable. That's one thing Johnson did well. Whether it's accent or not, that came through, along with the Force stuff, with like the Force Skyping. He kept preserve that, and then said fuck Rian Johnson for 2.5 hours, and tried to unite fandom, try to bring, you know, with everyone bitching about Palpatine. I think JJ's like, well, what better way to unite original and prequel fandom, the people that actually pay for these movies, than to just make him the overarching villain of the whole saga. You know, I think that was the attempt. And I think maybe he did intend for her to be Rey Palpatine from the start, because my father-in-law, big Star Wars nerd like me, he rewatched Force Awakens every day for months, and he's like, oh yeah, it's easy, dude. Rey's a Palpatine. Look at her form and this and that. Look at how she stabs at him. That's Palpatine from Episode 3. And it's kind of like, maybe it's on accident, but he turned out to be right.
That's an interesting thought, Angus. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you at all, but it is definitely raises some question marks Why would J.J. Abrams only call Ian McDiarmid in December of 2018 to ask him to come back and reprise his role of the Emperor? They did not have a plan. I'm not like saying you're wrong. I'm disagreeing with you very respectfully there. I don't think they had any idea. Rian Johnson had no clue that the Emperor would be in episode 9. I guarantee you that.
No, I agree. I think that this was ad lib last second.
Yeah.
I think it was JJ like, holy crap, what did I do? But here's the thing, JJ didn't have to come back. He was a producer.
You're right.
He would have stayed just producer, but he chose to direct. I think he chose to direct out of a sense of love for fandom. Say what you want about Star Trek and all his falters and stuff, his failures. Supposedly, I don't care that much about Star Trek. It's a good show, series, but it's not my thing. Star Wars is my thing. I think it's very clear that he loves the fandom, that he wanted to kind of, in a loose way, very plot holy way, write a love letter to the fandom, like, hey, we're really sorry about The Last Jedi. It wrecked my vision, and I'm going to take its back hold now.
Well, as tough as we are on it, I did enjoy it more going back the second time. I'm not saying that it's like good or awesome or anything, but when I went back and watched it a second time, there were actually scenes in it the first time through that I did not like, that I actually enjoyed the second time, such as Luke lifting the X-Wing out of the water. Like, that really moved me the second time around. And I'll tell you guys this, and this is just me being open and honest and transparent with you guys. Everybody's not going to be this way. I walked into the movie theater knowing all of the spoilers that Doomcock and Jedi Paxis and everybody had said. So that's the lens that I watched it with. And I walked out going, oh man. And the negative was just like magnified for me. When I went back and watched it again with my child, I still recognized the bad. I still saw the negative, but it did have a lot of good parts. And here's the thing. We're in our 40s now, or Nick and I are, and we're still talking about Star Wars. And I still love it just as much as I ever did before. For us, where we go next is Nick and I are actually undertaking a project where we look at the sequel trilogy and how the discrepancies, the things that are disconjointed between the original trilogy. And here's an example. When Ben Kenobi said, I cannot interfere, about Luke going to fight Vader. But then you got Rey at the end of the movie being talked to by 20 different old Jedi who are dead. But Ben Kenobi said, I can't interfere. A discrepancy such as that, we're going to look at all of those that we can remember and just kind of put that out there. Do we expect J.J. Abrams to get that all correctly? Honestly, no. I wish that he did. I think that if any of us were in charge of producing this film, that we would have done that and we would have stayed true to what Star Wars was originally, but we didn't get that. But there is still some good in this film. I like it a lot more than The Last Jedi. I'll be quiet now. Sorry, Max.
Good. I got another person that just entered backstage. I gotta address him first, though. I'm gonna put him on, and I got a beef with Jarbo.
Oh,
Jarbo
beef.
There he is.
I got some beef with you, Jarbo. I got some. No, I got some. Okay, I never had a stream demonetized until Jarbo came on. It wasn't the puppets. It was Jarbo.
All those super chats, they're gone.
So I don't take super chats here, but I do have my videos monetized. So next time you want to imitate the Fandom Menace, Jarbo, please take it a little bit. I think it was your cat.
Okay. Sorry, I'm sorry. The next time I'm going to imitate them, I'll just summon Corky from Life Goes On, because I feel that's so. There we go.
All right, now, Matt, you love this. Well, you're really happy with this movie. Okay.
I'm really happy with it. Yeah, I saw it twice, and I loved it a lot more the second time, because I there's a lot more that I recognized that I just kind of missed on the first viewing.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I mean? I was tired as hell on the first viewing. If you guys don't know, I flew to LA to go see it, and so I got invited to a press screening And so I flew to Los Angeles, because that's what I do, from Washington. And then I checked it out, and I was just exhausted, but it was a good movie. And then I saw it a couple nights later with some friends in Seattle, and I just really, really loved it. I thought it was a perfect love letter to what JJ was attempting to do, and to honor a lot of what Lucas had set up. I love these comments from people that are like, it destroyed Anakin's legacy. Like, no, it doesn't. Like, I'm sorry if you think that happily ever after means that like nothing changes in this life. I mean, that's not the way that the world or the universe operates. Nothing stays the same forever. And I mean, I just have to ask when people are throwing that in my face, like, have you left your mother's basement? Is that?
No! Gyro!
I leave it when I stop pumping my cousin.
Is this Campia over here? Campia?
You gotta, yeah. I mean, like, Campia clearly, I don't know, man. No, I don't know. I was listening to Campia's spoiler discussion today, and it annoyed me because I totally forgot that everything involving that man is pay to play, and I don't like that.
Yeah. To be fair, that's an interesting thing you just brought up. The old guard of movie talk has totally gone cam girl overboard. Campia, everything like you said is paid to talk to him, and now Harloff has an interrupting robot. You have to pay $20 on Streamlabs, and a robot comes in and interrupts the show. I think it's gone too far. I mean, I'm not against people making money, but is that really movie talk? Is that really? Then you're shilling for super chats.
Well, I mean, I get it. Like, he no longer has the comfort of a job that's being paid for by somebody else. So he's in his own realm, and I get that. And LA is expensive, very expensive. So I understand that completely. My complaint comes from the fact that it's like, I'm not against anyone making money, super chat away, all that jazz, but it's like when you're not going to interact with the chat unless they pay you a couple dollars.
Yeah,
that bothers me. I mean, I hold open phone calls. Like, I put the number out there. I'm like, you like me, don't like me, call in, let's talk. Like, I like it, and it doesn't cost anything. It's free.
Yeah, I didn't do that yet. I'm gonna phone in one day.
Well, yeah, you're on the East Coast, I'm on the West Coast, so it's a little bit different timetable wise. But anyway, back to the movie. I just really like what JJ had done. It's unfortunate that it was 2 movies in one, and it's unfortunate that it's as short as it is, for the story. But I think in a couple, I think people are going to look back on this one more fondly than they do the prequels, to be fair.
Can I ask Matt a question?
Sure,
Matt,
absolutely.
Matt, first, before I ask you this question, I do want to say this. You are, in my opinion, you do not pander to anybody, and you say exactly what you feel and you think, and I want to tell you that I appreciate you for that. Don't
thank the antidepressants. So
I feel you. I'm on those too. What I want to ask you is, can you compare Rey and her abilities in this last movie to those of Anakin at his height?
I mean, I would say that she was more powerful than Anakin at his height.
And I think that's why people are walking away saying they destroyed the legacy of Anakin.
Well, it's not so much that. It's like the general argument I hear has everything to do with the Anakin's sacrifice at the end of Jedi. And I love that scene. Like, I mean, I love all the, maybe not so much The Last Jedi, but I love all the other movies. And even the Phantom Menace. But it's like, if you look at it, it's kind of like Anakin was the chosen one. Well, to really kind of break that down, you have to start looking at the philosophy of what Star Wars is, right? So this philosophy of the chosen one, the light and the dark, has everything to do with yin and yang, that old Chinese principle. And so when you start looking at the concept of maintaining balance, it is maintaining the light as well as maintaining the dark. The concept of the chosen one in this context is that Anakin was meant to protect the light. Palpatine was coming to usurp the light. He was going to bring darkness. So Anakin's job, his prophecy, his destiny, was to strike Palpatine down and keep him from taking over. That doesn't mean that it's going to be completely destroyed. These things have a tendency of coming back, right? And there's an allegory that I think that JJ was going for Because if you go back and you look at the Empire was clearly based upon the Nazis, right? We know that. That was what Lucas was going for. And what JJ and Terrio have kind of said in some interviews is that this is kind of a take on these things can come back. And we've seen this in our own society, where we've seen the rise of white nationalism, especially here in the United States. We've seen hate attacks are on the rise. We've seen all these things. And this is a reality. This is not fiction. This is reality. And so if you look at the concept of the First Order and what it is that they're trying to say, it is trying to tie into that. It is poking at our societal structure, but just doing it through the lens of a fantasy-based space opera. And I find that to be quite fascinating. Now, again, could they explain it better? Yeah, 100%. But I still love what they've been getting to. And so, again, so it's kind of like Anakin served his purpose, but that doesn't mean that darkness was never going to rise again,
Sure.
Yeah, you said exactly what I've been thinking, Jarbo. I like my example I give, kind of adding to that, kind of what I've used, Taoistic or just Eastern in general. They're very much about duality, light and dark. Yeah. There's no light without darkness, vice versa, and that's what Star Wars really is. It's a fetishization of the Eastern philosophies, and I don't mean that in like a negative way, like the SJWs or something. Talking about white people in the East or whatever. But like my example I give is more like down to earth, where it's like cops get killed every day, but we never think, oh man, that cop was just a waste of existence because crime keeps happening. Oh my God. Star Wars, like for me, why would you watch episode 7 if you're worried about Anakin's like eternal his sacrifice, the preserving the balance? If that was meant to be eternal, why would you ever watch episode 7 to start with? Because, oh, look, the Force is in balance again. We got Snoke and Kylo in this repeat of the Empire and the dark side. I mean, Star Wars has to escalate. You had Luke Skywalker, and then Anakin is an escalation of Luke Skywalker as far as storytelling. And Rey is that, and you add the fact that she's a Palpatine, so now she's like a prodigy that seems to grow in power from the top guy of darkness for over a century. So I'm cool with it. Now, how we got here, she definitely was set up kind of Mary Sue-ish. You could argue though, because who is her parentage? Then episode 8 kind of confirmed the Mary Sue-ness. So everyone's just very jaded and angry and stuff. And you got this whole context of Captain Marvel and other characters where it's like they just shove women down your throat without ever giving them justice to like them. So I think it's contextual. I think once we get away from this politics, from the Trump 2020, Trump 2016, Ghostbusters 2016, all this stuff, Captain Marvel, we'll look at this film differently, because at the end of the day, besides the gay pandering scene at the end, which is just a corporate mandate, I assume, there's like no politics to this discussion. And I love it. We're arguing good or bad a film and nothing about Hillary, Trump, Biden, whatever,
I agree with
that.
Well,
I would argue that the gay kiss in the end wasn't corporate pandering. I mean, there are gay people in the world showing them.
No, I agree. I'm bi, but it felt just very like, JJ's like, yeah, there's gonna be something for you there. And I'm just like,
I'll tell you what it felt like to me. What it felt like to me was that iconic photo from the end of World War II, where the sailor grabs the nurse and he dips her and he kisses. That iconic photo. That's how I interpreted the intent behind that scene.
Okay.
It was just meant to be a moment of not only passion, love, and celebration. And that actually in that moment ties directly into what JJ was trying to do with the movie. I mean, like the way I view it is you get to the end, right there at the end, and like the three of them are hugging each other. Like there's not really romantic feelings between any of them. They're siblings is how I view it, right? They've kind of grown that level of close to be siblings. And their hug, it felt genuine to me. It felt like it. I've been talking to a lot of people about this movie. I've been asking my audience to like tell me how you feel, and a lot of them are saying I come out of this movie and I'm like elated, I am happy, I am satisfied, because at the end of it they feel I don't want to say placated, but they were given that experience of emotion, right? And I think again it ties into the Last Jedi, where we were left with frustration and anger and confusion. And that simmered for 2 whole years, which is why we are where we are right now.
All right.
So I'm just saying, like, yeah, there's themes all over that movie that are fun to kind of dive into.
Do you think we're too stuck in the bubble that like the YouTubers that are upset with the movie and that the general audience is loving it? Or what do you think?
Yeah.
I want to hear from everyone though. Too.
And Max, if you don't mind, I'd like to get Jarbo's comment on this right here. Whenever we're done with this part.
Okay. Well, what do you think about? Do you think general audiences you think it's going to drop, or do you think people are still liking it, like the general public?
Me personally, I think the general public is going to enjoy the movie more than the hardcore fans are. Like I said, I had a good buddy that called me the other night and said, "Dude, you're crazy. That was like one of the best movies I ever saw."
Okay.
Can I step in here, Nick, as the other half of Echo Based Network? And I'm going to speak for you. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And I think you guys will understand. We're not saying this as like we're Star Wars elitist or anything like that by any means. It's that true old fans, big fans, fanboys of the original trilogy can connect the dots a lot quicker than a normie can.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Angus, you're laughing at me. What are you laughing at?
No, I'm laughing at Phobic because he was picking on me and Trinity.
Oh, okay.
So what Angus? Nick, go ahead.
But yeah, so he is not a diehard fan. He didn't watch them. He couldn't listen to the soundtrack of the original trilogy and tell you exactly what lines were being said at that particular part in the soundtrack of the movie by just listening to the soundtrack.
That's
me and Coach can do that for all three movies. I mean, we know the original trilogy inside and out.
Don't make us sound like we're superior, Nick. We're not.
Well, I mean, when it comes to that, we are superior to normies. I mean, seriously. I mean, because we know that much more about the lore and the canon of the movies.
And it's because we love it.
Yeah, because we've grown up with it, and it's been part of our lives for pretty much our entire lives.
I listened to the Return of the Jedi soundtrack on dates, guys.
Now, I want to interject here with something in the fact that I'm 40 years old myself, so I grew up with these movies as well. But the one thing that I think is silly is we have people out there saying I'm more of a hardcore fan than you, and who are you or me or anybody to judge anybody's level of fandom and say that you're not as much of a fan as I am? That's absolutely ridiculous, and I think it's bullshit. And I think it's one of the biggest problems that we have out there within these fandoms. And I'm not saying these guys are assholes or nothing like that.
I think you just did. No.
I think that's one of the biggest problems out there. I think that's one of the problems out there between these fans, and what gets a lot of people going at each other is saying that, like, you're saying that I'm not a fan when I've loved this stuff for this long. And I'm not, like, me myself, I'm not invested in like the EU or anything, but I do love the movies and I grew up with them. And I think just that little piece of conversation in itself is kind of what starts to build a divide between the fans. I mean, because the way I see it is like, sure, there's different levels of fans. There are normie fans, and I'm probably more of a normie fan than I am the hardcore fan. Definitely.
I like what you're saying, Trinity.
Kind of where it goes with things like that.
There are people that love the music. There's people that love the EU. There's people that love the toys. Like right here, this 1980 Luke Bespin on a 32 back, about $500 retail, guys. Like there are people that like all kinds of different aspects of it. Max, I am so sorry. I've got family in town.
That's fine.
I have got to run. I hate leaving you guys.
This
is so awesome. And I am actually in here with Matt Jarbo. I hate leaving. Well,
don't be too excited. I'm not that important.
Yes, you are.
You are.
Coach.
No, we want Nick and the coach back. We want Jarbo back. We want This is what I always envisioned of the War Council. This isn't crazy. It's not like attacking each other. It's real talk. So smash the hell out of Echo Base's YouTube channel and subscribe and say, "Come back, coach. Come back, Nick." So
Matt, thank you for.
I'm staying here. I don't gotta go nowhere.
Max, thank you for having us. Matt Jarbo, it was an honor to be here with you. Trinity, very nice talking to you. And Angus, forget you. We'll see you guys later.
Later, man.
I'm just kidding, Angus. I'm just kidding. Love you, dude.
No, I love all you guys.
But just to clarify my point from what Trinity was saying, and there might have been some misunderstanding there. I wasn't trying to say that me or Coach are bigger fans than anybody. I'm just saying that we know the stuff probably a little bit more in depth than normies know the material, the source material.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah.
Can I add
and that's where I was going with all that. Just like what Coach was saying, it's quicker for us to connect the dots. Like when we watch these movies, like, hey, how is that possible? How's this possible? Like this right here doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. So like what I was saying when my buddy Matt called me, I was like, man, that movie was awesome. He couldn't connect the dots as well. And I'll use this as an example. When Game of Thrones season 8 came out and I watched some of the episodes of it, I was like, man, that was good. But then when I heard somebody that knew the material better than I did critique it and connect the dots, I was like, oh yeah, that doesn't make sense. Okay, now I get it. So that was basically where I was going with all that.
All right.
Yeah, no, and I hear that, and like I said, and I'm not saying that you're, like I said, you're being a jerk about it, but I think that's where a lot of the disconnect and a lot of the fans start going at each other is because there are people out there saying, well, hey, I'm a harder core fan than you are. And it's like, well, I mean, I feel like that's where some of that discourse comes from, is people feeling that way.
I'm guilty of that. Yeah. I'm trying to be better.
To add to that, to both y'all, I've sat on this video because it's like, how do I go about making it properly, respectfully, and stuff? I feel this kind of come to a headway, not just reflecting Trump, Hillary, or whatever with Last Jedi, the politics introduced in that film, in Star Wars, like abruptly and explicitly, as opposed to like George Lucas. The most explicit he was with politics in Star Wars was Episode 3, when he had Anakin say, "You're either with me or you're my enemy." That was a direct reference to George Bush.
Yeah,
but it's a specific line that we're going on 16 years removed from, that like no one remembers.
Right.
So you never watch that, and you just think it's like the Sith are absolutists. That dialogue isn't hindered by a politician saying it. Now, I think it's actually further than just politics. I think Star Wars, because unlike comics where you have so many iterations, Star Wars is a linear story that has no actual deviation. Everything piles into like this one line of storytelling. And so it becomes dogmatic. It becomes religious, especially with what is referenced, what is intrinsic to the development of Star Wars is religion and mythology. And so you're talking about heresy. I think that's where we're really at, is we have the dogma of Star Wars. Maybe we can all agree on the original trilogy because everything kind of lined up perfectly. And now you get the prequels, and now the sequels especially, and then the books, and then the EU, you have the split. Last Jedi, and I would say the throwing away of the EU, was like the coming of Christ. You had the old guard, the original fans, the Jews that have like this understanding of lore, and then you have this new guy that says, oh yeah, a lot of that shit doesn't matter, do what the hell you want with food and dialogue and stuff, it's all about your heart and action, and that is sacrilege to the old guard. I think that's where we're at, and I don't think we'll ever really repair it. I think the prequels kind of had that, but overall we could all agree on the lore and just argue the execution. Now it's like actually dogmatic and religious, and it's also part of society where theater going movie consumption is a religious outing as well, if that makes sense. That's how I view everything. So I think both of y'all have points that are excellent. I feel I'm just adding to that.
Hey, Julie, everyone say hi to Julie.
Hey, what's up, Julie?
I do have some, I'm not going to go too much longer at this stream because I don't like to do long streams. And I know everyone's busy here. We're all working men here. So I did have some final questions. Let me bring them up here. Okay, now that you've seen the full picture, when they announced JJ was coming back, was Rian Johnson's trilogy always a BS marketing move? I 100% think it was. It was a way to say, well, why aren't you having Rian do the third one? Well, he's working on a trilogy. Why is JJ coming back? He wants to. I think they kind of knew. And my opinion was that Carrie, unfortunate passing, they would limit what they could do with reshoots because they reshooted every movie. Are you reshooting this one? No, it's perfect. We're not touching it. I think that was all BS, and that was when it was falling behind the scenes of that celebration, and they didn't announce the Obi-Wan too. That all happened at the same time. So that's my theory. Do you got each person answer? Do you think his trilogy was always a BS marketing move to get people to buy tickets, or do you think he was actually actively working on it?
That's a good question.
Jarbo, you're first.
I think he was actively working on it.
Okay.
I mean, that's not to say like they were anywhere near production. Obviously, it's been 2 years, but I think a lot of it was predicated on whether or not the movie was a success. I mean, 1.3 billion, you can't really argue with that on any movie about it being successful. But the fact that there was such a quick reaction to it in the way that it happened, no one could predict. And I think at that point, he just kind of like moved away, and they just don't want to say that he didn't do it because they don't want to lose face.
All right. Anyone want to go next? Trinity?
I think I kind of feel the same way. I think they had the ideas that they wanted to go ahead and move forward with it. And then I think just with everything that's kind of happened afterward, I think they kind of started to rethink that. And, I can't blame them for that at all. I mean, I think as a company like Disney, that, I mean, they got to at least somewhat keep their options open. But I mean, it's really hard to say when it comes to those things, what goes on behind closed doors for the most part. But I think they did have the plan.
All right.
Yeah, I think they really believed in Ryan. I think there's a problem with Hollywood because Grace, our girl Grace Angel, she talked about Knives Out and that it's very pretentious. It thinks it's smarter than it really is, which is what I'm hearing a lot about this movie. And I think maybe that's part of the Hollywood elitism. They thought, oh, all these things, these political things, it's going to be, way over the dumb Star Wars fans' heads. And they thought, oh yeah, we'll just do this for 3 movies for a whole trilogy. And then they realized, oh fuck, everyone picked up on it right away and hated it, or it at least split the fandom, if not actually most people hate it. And you'd have nothing for normies to go forward with because it's very much an end to the story. So I think they did want to go forward with Kathleen wanting to go forward with this trilogy, but then the backlash, it became very clear we can't. But they got to save face because they can't give in to the alt-right Nazis on YouTube.
This is how. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nick.
I was just gonna say, I think Kathleen Kennedy loves Ron Johnson and really wanted to give him a trilogy. And The Last Jedi was successful financially, but I don't think they were expecting the backlash that The Last Jedi got. And I think that made them, I mean, you can tell just from the Rise of Skywalker. I mean, they kind of retconned some of the stuff in The Last Jedi and took some shots at Ron Johnson and that movie in The Rise of Skywalker. So I don't think that, I think that he might have started some initial work on a trilogy, but I don't think Disney's going to move forward with it. I personally don't think that Ron Johnson's trilogy will ever happen. But yeah, I do think that at one point in time, he was probably working on it, probably coming up with different ideas, probably in talks with them, shooting some things back and forth. But I don't think it'll ever see the light of day.
Okay, cool. So everyone disagrees with me. I think it was BS. I think it was BS from the start. I think it was just to say, "Oh, we know what we're doing" when we have absolutely no idea. And
that's possible. That's possible.
But here's what you see. My Kathy fired, and Ryan Johnson canceled videos that I started. People really criticized me on, but I always was subverting expectations of what that means in Hollywood and these big elites. Kathy is never going to be fired. It's never going to be an actual headline. It's this taking away projects, a slowdown, and moving everything to streaming where she wasn't as involved. I'm not saying she's not involved completely. And then the disconnect between Iger and Kathy, where Iger says we're in a slowdown, and Kathy says, "Oh yeah, we're having meetings with Ryan and DB Weiss and David Benioff." Well, where are all those guys? So they're on different pages. They're on different pages.
Well, yes and no, right? So you have to look at it from there's an optics perspective that you have to look at it from, and so you're right on the money. I think in regards, even though I think they announced the trilogy, nobody really knew who Ryan Johnson was leading into The Last Jedi. Let's be fair. You know, oh, you might know Brick, you might know Looper, but other than that, what has the guy done?
Yeah.
You know, so it's just one of those things where I think Kennedy actually believed in it, believed in wanting to give him the trilogy. What happened was just the movie failed, and so they kind of went back to. I mean, also, sorry, let me just kind of take a step back. You know, Colin Trevorrow left Episode 9 in September of 2017. They announced Rian Johnson's trilogy closer to the release of the movie. So, you know, I think that's also something. But keep in mind, too, that the day before Solo came out, they announced that James Mangold was going to be directing a Boba Fett movie.
Oh, man, I got it. My dog is eating something she shouldn't. Hold on. Get out of here.
Is it chocolate? Hope it's not
My
chocolate.
dog ate my homework. I'm Mad Max.
Quick question while Max is dealing with his dog. How do any of you guys think that what we're getting in The Mandalorian is reused stuff from the Boba Fett movie?
No. I think it's all Favreau.
Get over here. My dog was. She's been
That's
bad
putting
lately.
this bitch in place.
She's been bad lately. She was like this when she was little. She was getting calmer, and now suddenly, I think it's because I've been streaming more. She's trying to get my attention. All right. Sorry, I missed that.
Hey, show her on stream. Maybe she'll calm down.
All right, come here. Oh,
Watch you be a chihuahua like Jared Amort.
I got two.
she's messing me up constantly.
Long head.
Forget it. Get out of here. Get out of here. She's messing me up. She ripped out my headset again. All right. I wanted to leave on a positive note, so I am going to have. I'm shilling for my Fandom awards, but I want to have some good categories. So one of the categories, I think we only have 3 options on the Fandom Awards, is the best thing in Star Wars in 2019. And it's going to be the game, which I forget the name of the game. Fallen Order, Mandalorian, or Episode 9 is going to be one of the polls. Is there anything else in 2019 that came out for Star Wars that we could put in there? I don't think. The VR game, maybe?
Yeah, if you wanted to include the Jedi Order game.
Okay. So that's
that was one of them we already said.
Oh, did you say that?
Yeah. Did the VR game come out this year too? People really like that.
Yeah.
Or one of the books or comics. I'm not sure. I haven't been following that.
Yeah, I was gonna say they've always got comics coming out.
Yeah, man. They did the like ages. They did the ages of like what?
Age of Resistance,
Age Rebellion, and Republic. Age of Republic.
Yeah.
There we go. Honestly, as Last Jedi hater, I thought I'll tip my hat. Even when my reviews are, I'm like, look what they're doing to Star Wars. These comics, they're trying to retcon or fill in the gaps with the Last Jedi. I tip my hat to them. Like they wrote pretty well given the limitations they're stuck with. Where it's like, this film happened, we can't cut it out. So I can make peace with the comics, and they're doing all right overall. I haven't read the Star Wars mainline comics, but Vader's always been good. And a lot of I haven't read Tico, but a lot of the like the Ren stuff, all the ages stuff leading into Episode 9 was pretty good.
And then another poll I'm going to have is rate the trilogy. One original, prequel, or sequel. I know it's pretty much going to be. Everyone knows what's going to happen. I actually will go with, even though I love the original trilogy, I will go with the prequel trilogy because I just have so many fond moments of going with my father. The original trilogy, I usually just watched it on VHS or when the special editions came out. But having something new for Star Wars in the theaters, and it, even though there's issues, it expanded the universe so much. This might be blasphemous, but I like Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan better than Alec McGinnis.
Oh yeah, Guinness comes across like a lost, like senile old man. He's like, oh yeah, I know that guy. That's me.
I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I just love Ewan as Obi-Wan. I just think like to me, like he is. I was 17 when Phantom Menace came out. So like, yeah, kind of like you. Like, I grew up watching these movies. So to me, he's my Obi-Wan. When they announced the show, I was happy. I was so happy when they said he's coming back. So
Yeah.
He might be one of
the prequels are a lot better than people give him credit for.
Yeah, he might be one of the best recasts in history. Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan.
Well, what were they going to do? It was a prequel set 20 years in advance, or 25 years in advance. Like, he's dead.
Honestly, though, they should have recast him with Sean Connery. I think we can all agree.
What was that, 99? That was before League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. So, yeah, Connery could have been game.
Oh, he did. He did Dragonheart, and that's man, gets me in the feels every time.
Yeah, it's a good movie. I like Dragonheart.
So I do want to say, look out for the Fandom Awards. We're going to have a results show early 2020. It's actually, hey, you're laughing at me, Trinity, but I got more retweets and interaction on Twitter than I've ever had before. So it actually,
wait. You know why, Max?
Yeah.
You know why?
Yeah.
Because everyone knew you were having Preston on, so War Campaign is like, hey, share all these votes. That's I don't know if it was a troll or if it was a legitimate, like, hey, let's have fun with Max.
Hey, no, I'm not. I'm against censorship, so I even have a poll that says, "What's the best YouTube fandom?" in the Fandom Menace there, and I need some help because they're winning. And then I also have a poll that says who should the joking cancel, not actual cancel. Jeremy's there. Cancel the madness. Cancel the menace. And cancel EVS's pie. And I think you know who's winning. But it's not me. I'm not winning that one. So we'll have more polls. We'll have more polls, including some Comicsgate and some stuff about Star Wars for people to vote on. And focus on the positive. What's the best thing in Star Wars in 2019? Is it Episode 9? Is it The Mandalorian? Or is it the game? Now, I don't think the game's going to win, but we have to include it. Mine is Mandalorian all the way.
I would probably agree with that.
Yeah,
me
too.
Go on, Jabba.
You did also forget Galaxy's Edge. That was
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that definitely won't be the winner.
I have to include that. Yeah. Good thing. Galaxy's Edge.
And I've been there, and I can speak on that.
Yeah, no, okay. I was just gonna say it's like being a War Campaign. I try to bring dong memes to the Star Wars fandom. It didn't quite take.
Don't.
A few people liked it, but overall, it's just kind of flew by.
Stop typing, Terry. Stop the fudge. No fudge campaign.
No schemes and scams.
No fudge campaign on my show. I think that's where we're going to end it. I pimp your channels on your way out, and Jarbo, I need to call into your channel. I will work it out next week, I think, or maybe the week. It's coming soon. Next couple of weeks, I want to call on your show, and that's a great opportunity. Jarbo says he's willing to talk to you.
Are you still doing the late night shows, Matt? The call-ins, the late night ones?
Hold on, sorry. I'm mobile and I was breaking up pretty bad. Give me a second to reconnect it and we'll see how it works. Okay, so I'm gonna go mute for a second, but hold on.
Okay. All right, well, pimp your channels then.
Next. My name is Trinity. You can find me at the Second Street Marvel. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at the Second Street Marvel. I talk about comic books, movies, and on occasion even music. And come on, look at this handsome face. You want to see this handsome face. Go subscribe.
Oh yeah, I would subscribe again, but I'm already subbed.
Yeah.
And you gave the people's
eyebrows.
eyebrows.
So good.
What about the peanuts?
Make your wife sub.
What about the peanuts?
No, I don't want to show my nuts on your stream, bro.
Oh no! The peanut peddler. I have
those peanuts.
Yeah, you can also find me at the Peanut Peddler. That's at the Peanut Peddler on Facebook, Instagram, and even Twitter, and even on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm gonna order someday. I'm gonna
look into that later. Peanut Pet. I didn't know that was a real thing.
No, I'm not. No, I mean, are you okay with me saying that?
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, okay.
You're good. I was surprised. You mentioned it yourself at the end of the video. I'm like, what the heck is he talking about? And then I checked it out.
Second Street's just about at 1,000 subs.
Yeah, he's getting close.
Everyone unsub Second Street Marvel.
No.
That's pretty easy. Just criticize the Fandom Menace; they'll do it automatically.
That's true. I'm proof of that.
Yeah, you should have been at 5K already, Max, and now you dwindled at 4.
I've lost more subs than anyone in the game, and I'm still here.
I lost over 30,000 last year, so we can fight that one.
Okay,
Right.
I'm not kidding. I did. I lost over 30,000 subs in 2018. Not on this channel, not on 3 Buck Theater, but on my other one.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I shouldn't brag about that because it's really not funny. But at the same time,
Matt, you
it's kind
win.
of funny.
You win.
It is what it is, man. It is what it is.
You lost more subs than I'll ever have.
Biggest loser, YouTube edition.
I'm in it to win it, okay? I'm in it to win it. There we go. Oh, good God.
So,
I mean, self-deprecating humor is always good.
So, Matt, we're pretty much ending the show. Tell them about what your channel, what your plans are the next few weeks. And
yeah. Okay, sorry, yeah. Finish?
No, that's it. Go ahead.
Okay. So my plans are to I'm trying to set up interviews with some filmmakers. So right now, I've got Patrick Reed Johnson, who, for those of you guys who are like in your 40s or near 40, you might remember a couple movies he did. He did Spaced Invaders with Ariana Richardson. It was like about like the bumbling crew of aliens that try to invade a small Midwestern town on Halloween.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was a funny movie. And then he also did Angus, which was a coming of age comedy from 1994 starring James Vanderbeek. And I'm a big fan of this movie. So I reached out to him on Twitter and I'm like, hey, I have like 25 years of unanswered questions. Can I interview you? And he's all down for it.
Cool.
And so I want to get into more interviews. I want to do more interviews with people. Now apparently I'm Access Media, so I apparently should be able to get that without a problem.
Hey, Jarbo, really quick, is that movie, because there's like been suppressed memory of some weird fucking movie I watched, and I think it's this movie. I think it's this Angus movie. This movie where like this kid's in high school and like they film him dancing with like a stuffed doll or whatever.
Yeah, it's a blow-up doll, but yeah.
Okay, so everyone, if you're in War Campaign, meme me from the Angus movie with the blow-up doll. And throw Roe in there, throw Panther, everybody. Throw Mad Max in there with his madness.
You better not. I'm coming after. No fudge, Terry. Get off the internet, Terry.
Well, here's the interesting thing with that movie is Warner Brothers never released it on DVD officially.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they actually released it via Amazon when Amazon was they were like on demand DVD, so you could just like buy it through them and they would burn it to a DVD-R and mail it to you. And so I actually they did a 1080p upres that ended up on Stars, and that's how I got a copy of it. So like I was like looking around like, oh my god, this is like Angus in 1080p. Did Christmas come early? And that's how I ended up getting to talk to the director, because I made one of those top 19 facts you may not know about this movie. And then I sent it to him, and then he sent it to the guy who played Angus, the lead actor. And then that dude hit me up on Facebook to say thank you, which is really, I was like, oh my God. That's like, I was geeking out, man. I'm like, I'm 37.
This beefy boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll check that out for sure. Nick is checking his phone, so we should go to him next.
I just got like two messages from family. So
okay.
Yeah, so I am one half of the Echo Base Network. We pretty much cover the majority Star Wars stuff, but we also cover comics, pop culture, movies, entertainment. I mean, just a little bit of everything. But of course, our main focus is Star Wars. We're a pretty new channel that just started up back in the end of March, 1st of April. And so,
you're doing pretty good then. I didn't know you were that good.
Yeah. We just started this year, so we're not even a year old yet.
Oh, good.
Nice.
That's amazing.
And Angus, he always goes last. Go ahead, Angus.
Yeah, the black guy goes last. The
For
back
sure.
of the bus policy on Mad Max's channel.
No, you caused me the most problems. But you're still my brother. But you just ask B level.
Yeah.
I miss B level. I got to talk to him soon.
Yeah, I mean, I check on B level. I check on him. I always look for funny content to listen to, and he's been slacking lately. So get on that B level. I actually just uploaded. I did a video about Kathleen Kennedy because I was talking to the town with. We got this covered. Grace did a video about it. She's like, I've been saying this for over a year, so screw y'all.
Me first. I said it first.
And but no, I just uploaded a video. If y'all don't recall, there's this movement I was part of and still am called hashtag for Ollie. That is Ollie Jones, the Spider-Man child who didn't get the permission from Disney to get Spider-Man on his tombstone over in England. Last case about 2 years before, they did allow a kid named Ollie as well in the UK to get Iron Man on his tombstone. So there's about 2 decades of before and after Disney purchase of Marvel and other characters with Disney that they've allowed on their tombstones. So it's kind of weird that they did with this 4-year-old who died of a degenerative disease and stuff. Perfect marketing layup going into home or Far From Home, but for whatever reason they don't care about you once you're a dead fan. So that story really bothered me. EVS actually first covered it, and I could tell it bothered him being a dad, and I covered it. I actually reached out to the father, and I had a leukodystrophy stream, a charity raising stream with him in honor of his son, and I've kept in contact with him. And actually, a artist in the war campaign that Ro hooked me up with did he took my idea and conceptualized it, brought it to life, and it finally got in the mail to him. So you can see the reaction of Lloyd, the father, and his family to getting that piece, and also get ready January 4th because we're going to do a memorial stream, 1-year memorial for Ollie, and we're going to do some more leukodystrophy fundraising. We'll have 2 links. One for America, which Jim Kelly, the Buffalo Bills quarterback, is associated with, and the other one that Lloyd has been following from Holland. So if you get your calculators ready to transfer American to euros, look forward to that. And let me know. Leave your love in the comments so then I can show Lloyd.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Well, we'd be interested in hearing from him too. I don't know, or hearing updates. Good work, Angus.
Real quick. Did you have something else, Angus?
Oh, well, I was just going to say everyone sub to Shires Art, SHIERS Art on YouTube. That is the artist. He's actually a Star Wars sketch artist for Tops, and so he's got some cool art. He's got some cool videos. Doesn't upload a lot, but he's the guy who did it. He did it for free. Sent it to him for free. He did it just as an act of love from the Ollie story. So everyone give Shires some love as well for bringing it to life. My idea, Rose, association, awesome stuff. Hell War campaign. That's all I got.
All right, Nick, do you had something?
Yeah, I was just gonna do one more quick shameless plug about.
Come on.
About Coach and I have for the last couple months have been working on a documentary on the sequel trilogy, starting from the sale of Lucasfilm to Disney, going all the way up to where we're at now, which is our part 3. We kind of broke it up into parts, so we got to finish up this last part. It's being narrated by Doomcock. We had a script and everything written out. This is not just something just thrown together. It's actually like a professional documentary that we're doing, that we're hoping to release on our channel, hopefully mid-January timeframe. But we got tons of YouTube personalities kind of also telling the story of this as well as our script. So we use a lot of clips from other YouTubers, and we try to keep it as middle of the ground as possible, not leaning one way or the other, but just trying to stick to facts of, how we got to this point.
All right, cool. I'll look out for that.
I don't know why, but because there's that whole association of Max and Doomcock because of the masks and stuff. I was thinking it'd be great to get Mad Max to narrate classic children's stories where it's like the itsy bitsy spider. And he went mad.
Mad.
because
That video killed me.
Okay, Trinity. Okay, it wasn't that great. Okay, it was not. Nah. All right.
I was rolling the whole.
Okay, we're ending the show. We're ending the show. Thanks everyone for coming. We're ending while it's hot. Good night, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Oh man.